Yo, yo. I am just going to be going through to make sure this is posted on socials real quick. Also, this is March 19th, week of March 19th, and this is the state of Nativewind. So, looks like we got that there. Twitter, cool. All right. So for anyone who is not aware, App.js is coming up, and I will be now. I bought my ticket the other day, so I will be there, tracksuit and all. For anyone interested, it'll be pretty easy to spot me. As always, we still have the bet going between me and Yatsik as far as number of downloads per week of one library versus the other. And the bet is if I don't hit 1 million a week, or I should say if Nativewind doesn't hit 1 million a week, then I owe him a beer. And then I think it's if he doesn't hit 200,000 a month with Uniwind, he owes me a beer. But he also owes me a beer if I get over 1 million. So we got to get that number up. Let's check where we're at right now. So we'll go to... Okay, so we're at like 650K. We got to bump that up. So about 2 months left to do that. And we're trying our damnedest. So free beer notwithstanding, there are some updates to go through here. And also, if you have any comments, you have any questions or whatever, like feel free to drop those in the chat. This stream is going to largely be somewhat freeform, right? So like I want to use this as time to update the product roadmap that I use. I've had a bunch of people reach out actually since last week about how do I contribute, like thank you for the work you're doing and all that. And they want to know specific areas where to help contribute. So I probably am going to use the, like I said, the product roadmap, which is, I'm just going to share my screen here in a bit. Good God. Nativewind projects roadmap. So let's share the screen. There we go. All right. So as I've stated before, if you go to Nativewind, you go up here in the tab projects, and you go to roadmap. This is what needs to be worked on or whatever. I actually think this one's done. So we can move that over here and I can subsequently close. That's already closed. Okay. Okay, so one of the things I'm working on right now is actually Next.js with Nativewind version 5. We'll call that this feature request, let's say. What are you? Ah, I see what it's doing there. If I create a new issue, this is kind of whack. Okay, so I see it has external links there. All right, I'm just gonna create a Tailwind. What? Okay, let's do empty. All right. Assignee me. I'm gonna have to look into why that is like so whack. Although we are using GitHub for this, so it might just like pigeonhole you into using specific, I don't know, ways of doing this. All right, so that's what I'm working on right now. I'm gonna kind of put this back into do for a second. And also, if I don't immediately respond to your comments, it's because I'm literally just in a different tab. So I will see them when I switch back to the tab, but it just doesn't give me like a floating whatever. So, all right. So since last week, one of the things that I did was to basically improve CI. Like I wanted to make sure that Nativewind, like when we're shipping new versions of whether it's like the website or React Native CSS, Nativewind version 4, Nativewind version 5, wanted to make sure that there's like release notes and you can see what the difference is between like different patch versions, minor versions. And well, I'm not really going to do that for like previous stuff. It is going to be a thing going forward. And so now moving forward, you'll see some of the releases already. It sort of just generates them based off the commits that are created. And it should also tag the person who made the contribution, assuming it is a contribution from another person. We can check that really quick. So if we go over to releases, yeah, so this is like one that was created for preview 3. And it looks like it just makes a reference to the relevant commit. I'm pretty sure this was another person. So if I like click on that, yeah. So it'll like sort of reference that. I'll see if I can't like have it like thanks to this person or whatever. But this kind of bugged me that this just wasn't a thing. So it's like you would see new releases, but you wouldn't see like what's in them or whatever. So I made sure that that exists for Nativewind, React Native CSS. Let me just go here and make sure that's, yeah, so it exists there. Okay, so you see the contributor section. Yeah, this is kind of what I was thinking. And we got a heart on this? My God. This dude, again, I'm going to butcher the name. Yevgeny Couturier is absolutely legend. Have really enjoyed. I mean, I can tell a bunch of the comments in the pull requests are like, AI generated or whatever. I don't mind that. I don't know how other people feel about this stuff, but like, look, Nativewind, I guess more specifically React Native CSS, complicated library. Like it has a lot of moving parts to it, and there's already so much involved in, trying to get everything situated and making a contribution. Like if you're outsourcing, creating a PR or even like comments to AI, whatever, like I don't care. Like as long as it's not slop, I don't care. And I see a lot of people complaining about this stuff, and it's just like, find something more meaningful to complain about. Like I have to review it regardless. And currently I do use AI as an initial pass to review the PR, but then I'm still putting eyes on it anyways. And that would be the case regardless of whether someone used AI or not to generate a comment or a diff. So what are we talking about? I was thinking the other day it'd be really cool to actually just have that like initial pass that AI does of PRs or issues or whatever as like part of this workflow. So you like open an issue, you open a PR, immediately something steps in and just kind of does an immediate review. I haven't really looked into any of the tools for this. If you have any good ones or recommendations, please drop them in the comments. I would love to check them out. My current approach is literally just like I have a skill for like review Nativewind PRs, and I use Claude Code locally for that, and then I basically like cycle from there. I have one also for issues, so one for issues, one for PRs. Maybe as we get to a point where I begin to bring in more maintainers, we're not quite there yet. I might open up those skills to other people, but they're just not relevant to other people at the moment. So, okay. So I guess big quantitative, like North Star, one of the North Star metrics, like what we're working towards right now is shipping a stable version of Nativewind version 5. And I'd like to do that before I leave for app.js. App.js is May 26th, I want to say. So, yeah, that's the idea. And that will probably have me moving version 5 to main. Version 5 is already on main. I mean to say, at latest, like when you do npm install Nativewind, it will default install version 5. That's my goal. A secondary goal for that is to have a bunch of open source, like most of the contributions coming from the open source community. I'm starting to see that trickle in. So right now it's like between 1 to 5 people who are really like, pioneering that. And like I said, I'm also having folks for reaching out via DMs on Twitter to basically be like, I want to help. This is awesome. I just need to know what to work on. So it's on me to address that. But basically everything, assuming you're going to use LLMs to help you through this, which you absolutely should, because Nativewind, again, React Native CSS specifically, is fucking complicated. It is layers upon layers upon layers. You should understand what's happening, but you are not going to be able to step in and day one understand what's happening, nor should you expect to. Like, that's okay. You don't need to understand how all of it works in order to contribute to the project. So, yeah, the documentation, the files that help the LLM you're using navigate the project, build out things that you feel should be there, are all there. So, relevant test PRs should be created, documentation, similarly, whatever changes on whatever level of React Native CSS, like that'll all be there. I think a really good starting point for most people is just kind of like, what do you feel is the problem with it? What do you feel is lacking or could be better? Start there. And if you run into issues, like, mark it with like a help wanted kind of thing, tag me or whatever. One of the things that the folks over at Geeky Ants suggested, we were talking about this last night, is that they're saying how like debugging style issues in version 5, and for all I know, version 4 also, is not open. It's like non-existent. Like you just don't know when stuff is failing. And so having something like in the logs where it says like, a certain style doesn't exist, like some kind of error, like maybe you mistyped something, like, oh, this utility class doesn't exist, some kind of visual indicator that something isn't working. I thought that was a kind of cool idea, and would obviously help also an LLM to rip through and fix that very quickly. So I might just have them like play around with that. After that, like if you don't have an idea of what you want to work on, or you've exhausted the things that you feel need attention, that's when you're going to go to that product roadmap that I highlighted before here. And you go into the to-do list, and that'll be the idea. So I'll go through that this week and add a bunch of stuff. Next, I had one of the ways that I'm like trying to like get to this sort of trust with React Native CSS and Nativewind is, getting a grasp and meaningful communication times and iteration on pull request number, number of pull requests, number of issues. We're getting through basically almost all of the pull requests for React Native CSS at this point are Dependabot basically type stuff. There's a version release for the next version of React Native CSS. That'll just merge when I want to release a new version, probably also this week. And then there's just like a couple more things, most of which I've already responded to, and I'm just waiting for feedback on. So I think we're actually pretty good with React Native CSS PRs. Next we can go into the issues. I just did this one. I'm gonna go through the rest, but some of these are quite a bit older, so I'm just gonna have to basically validate that they're still happening in the latest version, because a lot has been changed since in version 5 since a lot of these have been opened. So I'll go through that, and hopefully by next week this is like half this number or less. That would be, I think, good progress. So 15-ish issues in React Native CSS by next week. Also, heads up, I will be traveling, so this background will be different. Audio quality will likely also be different next week. So hopefully internet is not a problem where I'm going. If we go over to Nativewind, I'll go through specific changes in a second also of the difference. So pull request 16, this usually a lot, like some of the PRs that come in here are like test things for changes made to React Native CSS. So this is one of those. Other ones here are just like largely outdated. So this again is just basically go through, see if it's still an issue. If it's in here, it typically applies to version 4. My guess is a lot of these are just going to be like not relevant anymore. So should be able to get through a bunch of those this weekend-ish and or early next week. Issues, this stuff. So you'll see anything ready for release, marked as ready for release, is going to be like, it's already in there. It just needs to be published to NPM. And once it is, I go back through and just kind of like close these out. So then the other stuff, like some of this stuff is like, I have to come up with a consistent system for determining when something is an issue with Nativewind itself, or sort of the setup, say in this case with like NX. I don't have something like that, so working on it. But also, again, some of this issue is just like a lot of these are like older, especially the stuff from like May and March and all that jazz. So having to basically just confirm that these are still issues that exist is going to be the initial pass that I imagine will make most of the stuff irrelevant. And with that said, then I expect that starting either next week or probably more conservatively the week after, there should never be more than like 10 issues open in either Nativewind or React Native CSS. I don't see why it would be the case, not because there aren't any issues, but because the iteration speed that I'm expecting now with the issues is going to be so like on it that like they will be grouped and resolved relatively quickly, such that by at any given time you go to check, minimal issues. So then what next? Oh, the actual changes that have gone in. So I have since last week brought in more of the changes pertaining to shadow stuff, specifically the ring stuff that our buddy was working on. Hold on. We go back to React Native CSS, and we go to pull request. This. So Eveni has been like killing it again, like sort of obviously AI generated PR, but the info's all there. The changes are clean and make sense. I just kind of requested some comments on the approach taken and why that is, as well as like known issues that don't pertain to these changes. But you see just like a lot of the stuff he's suggesting are these tests that he's adding. If you get rid of the tests, it's actually like a pretty minimal set of changes. But this should resolve a bunch of like box shadow type stuff. We merged some stuff last week. This kind of wraps up that set of changes, and then hopefully we move on to other things. I also noticed that someone brought it to my attention that dark mode for version 5 is like not the same. Like trying to follow the guide for dark mode for version 5 is not consistent with like version 4. So I went through and updated that and created a new template repo that has dark mode working correctly, because you know that has changed between this version 4 and this version 5. It's located, the guide is in the same place, so it's just now like a different repository, so you can like go. Oh, it opens to a new tab. So let me see if I can. There we go. So, so yeah, you can take a look at this repo. It's just in the Nativewind organization. Yeah, it's much simpler than the one for version 4. It also uses a Expo SDK 55. So for whatever that's worth. The other thing I am working on right now is, I guess I should make a note of this in the project, right? So in a world where websites load properly. I'm working on a guide for dynamic theming. Using CSS variables in version like Nativewind version 5, because that's been a source of concern for some folks, and it shouldn't be. So I'm just going to quickly make a note of this. Guide for native or dynamic theming. And we'll just create an issue for now. I'll get to this later. All right, so yeah, the two things I'm primarily focused on that I want to try to get in before the next patch release are stuff pertaining to Next.js, including getting an installation guide set up for version 5. So like in the setup instructions on the website, you would, similar to version 4 docs, have a tab where you could like select Next.js. For right now, Expo Web works fine, good. So yeah, I'll keep folks updated on my work on Next.js stuff. And I should provide a monorepo template, basically, right, of like Expo and Next.js side by side. Then, yeah, I mean, dynamic theming, for anyone unclear, is just when you are changing the theme when the app is kind of like running, right? So it's not, I mean, you could use like dark light mode as a thing, but it's like way too simple, and you actually end up using something completely different from React Native for that. But same idea. It's when you're changing the theme of your application while the app is actually running. So how do you do that? Because it's a pretty popular thing. People like to do that. And so just need to go through and clear some things up, because some of the ways people have been going about it is a bit kind of hacky. Yeah, so it's kind of more of a best practices type of thing. And the instructions for it will be under like a guides or a core concepts section in the documentation. There'll be an LLM like copy thing or whatever, and it'll be part of the LLM-text. So once it's published, you'll be able to just ask your LLM without visiting the docs, just like, hey, how do you do this? And it'll, scan it and like do the whole thing. So yeah, that's the other thing I want to get in before, like I said, this next patch release. I did a patch release, was it a couple days ago? So still sticking to that cadence of releasing a patch release every couple days, no more than a week apart. And so I think that's largely been it. I can check. Hold on. Let me check what else has been going into. I've been sort of also like systematically updating the Claude MD file and the development MD file so that folks either using and or contributing to Nativewind React Native CSS can have the like immediately upon starting a session, like it knows all of what it needs to do. So if we go to pull requests, version packages, I think. Yeah, so just some updated dependencies, like internal cleanups stuff. Yeah. And then if we go to React Native CSS, where most of the work generally happens. Why doesn't this have details as to? Okay, so this is a skill. Okay, so this is all just like LLM type shit. Cool. So it just doesn't detect changes to React Native CSS itself. Yeah, so that's going to be basically then 3.0.5 of React Native CSS is going to be bringing in these changes for which PRs already exist once the relevant changes have been made. Some of this like fixes for some of these issues might make it in there, and the stuff I'm personally working on, which is a clear path on how to use Next.js, and any changes to dynamic theming that needs to be made in order to make it like a streamlined experience. If you have suggestions on stuff that like you've been having trouble with, again, GitHub issue is great. DM on Twitter can work. I just don't want to see like, hey, here's this issue I'm running into, and just like copying and pasting a text. It is sufficient for me to hear that someone was running into a problem with like, I'm running into a problem with dynamic theming. Like that's actually way more preferable to me than a code dump. I'm not going to read code dumps. And if you're going to do that, just open an issue kind of thing. So yeah, I can respond. The Geeky Ants folks did reach out in this way where like, they were like, here are the specific topics, not so much here are the code diffs. And I really appreciate that. So that's all of what's going to be in 3.05. and we'll just kind of keep going down the list. Mark still not clear when he's coming back. Unfortunately, I don't think he'll end up making it to app.js either, although he really wanted to this year. As more information becomes clear there, I'll let y'all know. But yeah, we're chilling for right now. If I think I mentioned this before, obligatory self plug. If you need to be moving faster with the Nativewind stuff, then I do have a consultancy that y'all can reach out and be like, yo, like, we just need more attention, like in the short term, to solve specific problems. That is ronindevs.com. So just RONINDEVS.com, or otherwise just hit me up on Twitter and we'll figure it out from there. If you do want to be notified about the stuff, like, you know, these changes, we do this like once a week, State of Nativewind. If you want to be notified about this stuff, then you know, subscribe to this channel if you're on YouTube. I don't know if liking this video does anything, but you know, you can if you want. If you're on Twitter, you should just see it, you know, whenever I go live. And I'm also always happy to take questions in between. So if you have a question in between sessions, then I'll just sort of save it for the next stream. One of the other things I want to do going into next week is start to create different forms of content than simply streams. Because I've gotten some of the feedback that people want like real world examples in the docs or whatever of like how to do certain things. I'm not entirely sure what that will end up looking like. I'm thinking either these sort of like templated small like code base snippet type things, or maybe I could like throw in a video or something of applying a certain style. I'm also curious if folks are interested at all in like how React Native CSS and or Nativewind kind of work under the hood. That is denser, but can be abstracted to like, you know, so that you can understand all the moving parts, and maybe that helps you like debug stuff that's happening. Yeah. One last thing. If you end up suggesting something and I'm like, that's sort of out of scope of the project, I've started giving that feedback. Please continue to do that. Like, even if it might be out of scope of the project, I'd rather tell you that it is than you be just simply unhappy. And the last time this happened, I think I mentioned how you can end up getting that result without it necessarily being part of the project. So ideally, we find your happy path, regardless of it being, you know, integral to the core of Nativewind or React Native CSS itself. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This is gonna be a short one. So again, unless anyone has any questions, appreciate y'all dropping by. Next time I chat with y'all, I'll be in South America. So let's hope that the internet exists in South America. Hope y'all have a good week. I will catch y'all on the flip side. See ya.